Hello, my name is Michael Mariny. Today I'll be talking about the four-stroke internal combustion engine, which is the most common type of engine seen on the road, used by cars on the road today. I will be talking about the different parts of an engine, the different strokes the engine goes through to generate power, and a couple different types of common engines that are on the road today. To start with, I'd like to talk about the parts of an engine. There is a cylinder block, which is basically a big piece of metal with multiple cylinders drilled into it. And beside each of these cylinders, there is a piston, a connecting rod, an intake valve, an exhaust valve, and a spark plug. To start with, there's a piston, which is a cylindrical piece of metal that moves up and down inside each cylinder to generate power. It is connected to the connecting rod, and from the connecting rod, it is connected to a crankshaft. I'll talk a little bit more about the crankshaft in a little bit. Then there is an intake valve that allows for an air-gas mixture to come inside the cylinder, and an exhaust valve that allows for exhaust to leave the cylinder once the cycle is complete. There's also a spark plug that will ignite said air-gas mixture from the intake valve. And now finally there's a camshaft and a crankshaft. The camshaft is a timing mechanism for the intake and exhaust valves. It tells them when to open and close. And there is a crankshaft which turns the vertical motion of the piston moving up and down into a usable motion for the car to use. It turns it into rotational motion thanks to the connecting rod. Now I'd like to talk about the four strokes the engine will go through. It is also known as the Otto cycle for a gasoline engine. There is an intake stroke, a compression stroke, a power stroke, and an exhaust stroke. In the intake stroke, the intake valve will open up and allow for the air-gas mixture to come into the engine, forcing the piston to move down the cylinder. Next, the intake valve will close, starting the compression stroke, when the piston will move back up the cylinder, compressing that air-gas mixture until it is ignited by the spark plug, which will start the power stroke. Once combustion has occurred, the force of the gas expanding will force the piston down the cylinder. And once it's at the bottom, the exhaust valve will open, starting the exhaust stroke, and the air will leave the engine, causing the piston to come back up the cylinder. Power is generated through that power stroke of the engine. So every time that occurs, more power is being used by the vehicle. Now there's multiple types of engines on the road today, and they all depend on the number and configuration of the cylinders in that engine block. To start with, a couple common ones are straight 4, V6, and V8. These are the most common for cars on the road, for smaller cars, depending on the power needed from the engine. A straight 4 is just 4 cylinders lined up in a line. And this is very common for smaller cars. V6 will generate a little bit more power, and that is 3 cylinders in a line, like 2 of them next to each other in the shape of a V. And similar to that, for the most power of these 3 is a V8, which will have 4 cylinders in a line next to another 4 cylinders in a line, and they'll be shaped like a V. Performance cars, high performance cars will have different configurations, maybe have different amounts of cylinders to generate more power, but they're a lot less common than these 3 I've previously stated. In conclusion, we talked about the different parts of an engine, from the cylinder block, the piston, the connecting rod, the 2 valves, the spark plug, and then a camshaft and crankshaft. We've talked about the different strokes the engine goes through to generate power, the intake, the compression, the power, and the exhaust strokes. And we talked about a couple different types of engines, the configurations that will allow for different amounts of power. Okay, thank you.